Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Technology Tuesday hosted by Out of the Box Technology. We are very excited to bring you these webinars, which are free to you, the viewer, that feature tips and tricks from in and outside the QuickBooks industry, hot topics in the industry, and different apps that are out there to help make you work more efficiently. All year we've been really featuring other third-party apps that we have partnered with, that were in the App Showdown with us. But today we are extremely excited to have a feature on Recur360, our very own app. So we're really happy that you've joined us today. My name is Jennifer. I am a business development and customer relationship staff here at Out of the Box Technology, and I will be your moderator today. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just go ahead and use the chat question feature there on your control panel. Those will come through to me and I'll help answer or relay them to our in-house expert, Barb Fiddler, who's on the line with us today. And we'll make sure that you learn everything that you have come to learn about Recur360. A little bit about out-of-the-box technology real quick before we jump in. If you're unfamiliar with us, we really focus on many things in the QuickBooks world. So training, integration, hosting, and support. We can do migrations if you're currently on a different product. We have an extensive bookkeeping staff that can help you with bookkeeping services. And we also have a great development team that can do website design, custom app development, and a whole staff that will do franchise services and solutions. So again, without further ado, today we are going to present a demo on Recur360, and I have our in-house expert, Barb, on the line with us, and she's going to take it away.
Hi, everybody. This is Barb. I'll go ahead and show my screen so I can show you what our Recur360 product looks like. As Jennifer mentioned, this is a totally web-based application that we developed for our clients out of a need. We had a client who came to us who could no longer process ACH transactions through their QuickBooks desktop application and asked us if we could write a custom app that could help them do that. So that's how Recur360 started. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. We're just seeing your Outlook inbox now. I don't know if you're sharing like a different...
Oh, my wrong.
No
sure.
problem.
Hold on. Let me share the proper screen. That might be helpful. 1 second here.
Perfect.
Okay.
Great.
Now you should be seeing my Recur360 login screen.
Yeah.
So,
thanks.
Good. Once you have accessed our Recur360 program, one of the main key features that we just added is the ability for you to connect to multiple QuickBooks files with one Recur360 login. And we are capable of connecting both to QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. So right now in my test environment, I actually have two different setups. I have my Sandbox company, which is connected to a QuickBooks Online file, and then my QuickBooks OOTB file, which is connected to Desktop. They both work the same as far as functionality from Recur360 goes. So either way that you interact with Recur360, it doesn't change. It just pushes information into either QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online, depending upon what you connect to. And so I'll go ahead today for our demo purposes. I'm going to use everything based on my QuickBooks Online file. And I also have my QuickBooks Sandbox test company open as well, so we can see how information flows back and forth. Now, the key features of Recur360, as I said, it was based in the beginning out of a need to be able to process transactions to QuickBooks Desktop and automate that payment processing portion of it. We've also added the capabilities for you to have a collection center and a recurring payment plan. So it's really three applications that deal in invoicing and payment features, pushing information into QuickBooks for you. So the first time you connect your Recur360 to QuickBooks, what we're going to do is bring in your entire customer list from QuickBooks, as well as any invoice history and current open invoices. So all of that information is synced in automatically and set up here. I can see my customer list here. As an example, I have a customer called Freeman Sporting Goods that has two different jobs with me in my QuickBooks file, and I can see the balance currently due on each one of those customer files. Okay. And then anything that is an open invoice comes into our Recur360 and our collection center. So I can see right now that every open invoice, I currently have 20 open invoices, and some of them are as old as 230 days. So I can very easily manage and process payments from any of my open invoices directly here in Recur360. And then that third feature, as I mentioned, is our new recurring payments option. This is used for a case where if a customer has maybe a large open invoice with you, or they have a payment plan with you, and you'd like to set up and automate that. So if I go to my recurring payments, I can tell it that I want to charge this customer $100 on the first day of every month until this particular invoice, $477.50, is paid in full. And then the system automates that. I don't have to do anything else. The payment gets processed and posted into QuickBooks against that invoice. So let's kind of run through the features for you starting at the top here. In our recurring invoices setup, it's very easy to create recurring invoices and manage them from our system, because probably one of the easiest ways to do that is to first access your customer who you've been billing in the past this first time. So if I go to my customer list here, and I pick anybody, I want to pick my Cool Cars customer, I can open them up in Recur360. I'm going to see their current history with me. They have no past invoices, so let me pick a better customer that has a past invoice history with me. Maybe my John Melton customer, I can see he's got an open invoice as well. If I choose to select him, I'm going to see any previous invoices that he had. I can see this one and it's still due, and it's open from QuickBooks. So I can simply pull that invoice up into my screen in Recur360, see the items that were invoiced on it. It was for a design project. There were 10 of them at $75 each. And I can choose this to make this a recurring invoice. So the top right here, I select to turn it into a recurring invoice. My next screen that's going to come up is ask me to fill in the details of how that invoice is going to recur. So template names in Recur360 are an easy way for you guys to sort and organize your different kinds of recurring invoices. If you have different monthly invoices for services versus installation invoices that recur, you can name them separately and organize and group them separately. So I'll call this custom design. Okay, the customer's already linked to it. I can put in the description. Okay. Then I tell it how often this invoice recurs. So I can do this daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly. The monthly option is very flexible in that I can do it every 1 month. So are the other options, by the way, or every 2 months, or every 3 months, every 6 months. So I design the frequency here and tell it which day to recur on. I can pick any day of the month, or I can tell it to happen on the last day of the month, and then it's flexible. It'll go 30 or 31 days, depending upon how many days are in that month. I tell it when to start creating the recurring invoice. The default is that it's going to start tomorrow, and it'll tell me right here at the bottom that the next invoice is going to happen on 7/31. If I am back entering this and I forgot to invoice them at the end of June, I can select my start date as prior to this. And if I select my start date as June 1st, it'll tell me that it'll run one time immediately to catch up, and then the next one will happen on 7/31 again. In our recurring invoices, you also have the flexibility to set end dates, and you can end it after so many occurrences or by a certain date. So that's when that invoice will stop automatically running. In my customer record, if I have saved a credit card form or an ACH form on that customer file, I can ask Recur360 to automatically charge that card when this invoice happens. My little slash shows to me because I don't have any payment forms stored on this customer file, which is fine. I can save this recurring invoice, then go back and either enter the customer credit card or ACH information and link it to this, or I can let the system automatically email the first invoice to the client, and they can enter their own payment information, which will save and get used for the next time this runs. Okay. In my recurring invoice, I can tell it to send an overdue notice automatically. If this invoice doesn't happen to get paid based on its due date, which are set by my terms, then I can tell the system to automatically send them an email with an overdue notice. And I want to send it every, let's say every 3 days until that invoice gets paid, starting 1 day after the due date. Then I don't have to do anything. If that invoice happens to go past its due date, Recur360 will handle sending out the collection notices for me. We also have options to prorate the first invoice here. Since I am starting at mid-month, I can do that. And then I have the option still to mark that invoice as to be printed in QuickBooks or to be emailed in QuickBooks. Then you would have to open each one of those invoices as they get created in QuickBooks and choose your send forms option. I do still have some clients who would like to physically print paper invoices. So that's an option for you, and then you would still manage and print them or email them out of QuickBooks. A terms option here comes over from your QuickBooks setting. And as long as your terms in QuickBooks are date driven, then this will automatically calculate my due date on the invoice. So if this customer set in at 30, it's going to be due 30 days after this invoice goes out. We also are compatible with QuickBooks' location feature. If you've enabled locations to be able to track different information and report on that in QuickBooks, I can select the location here. And then I have my line items that I'm going to be invoicing for. This customer's getting invoices for 10 design options. I can also add new items to this if I also want to invoice them for another service here. When I click Add New, that's going to bring up my my item list from QuickBooks. So all I have to do is begin typing the description of my item here. I have an item for services, and I select that. I can link a class to that, again, if that's enabled in your QuickBooks file for tracking. I determine the quantity, how much my rate is. This is going to be $75 each. And then I put in my description of what that service is. So, set up design for period of. We have flexible date inserts here that can allow you to automatically dynamically insert the current date into this description each time this invoice runs. So I can tell it to put the invoice date in here and then have it end on the day before the next invoice date. So now every time this invoice gets generated, it's going to, for instance, if it's generating for the month of June, tell it that it is from 6/30 for June, to 7/30 in the case of this, because it's going to be the day before the next invoice date. That will update and change every month as that invoice gets generated and sent out. So very easy for you guys to customize what the description of those line items is going to say. I'm going to save that. That's going to add that line item to that recurring invoice now. I also have the same dynamic date options available in my customer memo section. If you'd prefer to have that come down into the memo area of the invoice for QuickBooks, you have those same date options in there as well. Now, in here, I'm also going to need to choose my tax rate. If this is a taxable customer, that would have flown over from QuickBooks and set itself, and if I want to give that customer a discount. Now, all I have to do is press the submit option, and this recurring invoice is saved, and we'll begin processing invoices. I can see that it hasn't run yet. Okay, for John Melton, it has not run, and the next time it's going to run is 6/30, which has already passed. Recur360 automatically reviews these transactions at 3 o'clock in the morning every morning, and this invoice would get generated and emailed out to that customer then. If I would like to have that happen right away, we offer a feature called push transactions. That is, process everything that's pending in here to Recur overnight right now so that I can get it sent out and get it pushed over to QuickBooks. So if I press the push transaction option, it goes green while it's generating everything, checks all of my recurring invoices, and generates anything that it needs to. While that's happening in the background, you can see some reporting information on my other recurring invoices that have happened. I can see that these have generated successfully the last time, and they're next set to go. This one's on 8/1, this one's on 8/10. This one generated an invoice, but the payment failed. And I would get an email notification as the business owner from my Recur360 settings that tells me which customers' payments have failed. That customer also gets a notification that his payment failed, and then he needs to go and put in a new payment. So the payment failure notice that the customer gets looks something like, I have a sample one over here. Let me go open it up. something like this, that there was an error processing the transaction and that one invoice failed to collect payment, and they can click here as the Recur360 user to see what that invoice was and go ahead and manually try that payment again, or the customer can go in and send that payment again as well. Now that I have gone ahead and pushed my transactions, that one for John Melton here, I will now see has generated an invoice dated 6/30. The next one is supposed to go on 7/31, and it was successful. If I go into John Melton's customer account now, I'm going to be able to see that that invoice was generated, dated June 30th, and that it's still due. There's no payment form attached to it. In order to link a payment to John here, if I manually edit the customer record, I can enter his payment details here manually, either credit or ACH information. So if I enter a credit card, I'm going to type that in here. We are fully PCI compliant, guys, on our side, by the way. I'm never going to show you what a credit card number is, but I will show you the dots to tell you how many digits you have entered. So make sure that you're keying those in correctly. You put in the expiration date, the CVV number, same again, is going to be encrypted for you, and then the name, address on the card. If I press the Save and Sync button, now that payment type is stored on his record, and I can use that for processing current open invoices or future transactions. So right now it's verifying that that is a valid credit card and saving that information on his customer record. And I didn't enter my card number correctly. Hold on, let me try that card number again. Okay, put in my CVV date and save and sync that. Now, while that's happening, that is also going to update any changes that I had made to the customer record, his name, his address, his email address, into QuickBooks as well. So now that I have a payment form stored on the customer account, I can pull up that invoice again, and I can choose to process a payment right here. My options when I process a payment from Recur360 are to be able to charge the card that I have using my Intuit payment processor, because we connect to many different credit card processors. I can use Intuit Merchant Services, Stripe, Elevon, Authorize.net, USA ePay, or we also have our own Recur360 payments platform. If you do not already have a merchant account, we can get you one as well. So I'm going to choose to process this with my Visa card here. It's a Visa. I want to email a copy to the customer, and I press process payment. That goes out, charges his credit card, and saves it against that particular invoice. And it's going to post that payment into QuickBooks as well. Now that I go in there, if I look at the customer's record again one last time, guys, just another notice for you, because I had mentioned before being able to link that to his current existing recurring invoices. So in John Melton's credit card information here, if I go look up his customer record again, when I press the Edit Customer option, I can choose that payment detail to apply it to all his open recurring invoices. So this button right here, any recurring invoices that he had with me, be it 1 setup or 3, if I click this button, this payment form is now going to be linked to each one of those. Also, Recur360, by the way, allows you to have the option to have different payment forms stored on the same customer record. So I not only can keep his credit card with a Visa here, but I can add another payment method and add his ACH banking information and use that for a different recurring invoice or any other open invoice if I would like to do that. Okay. So we kind of covered everything about recurring invoices. Our collection center I want to go to next, because that's another powerful feature here that you can use in Recur360, which will help to automate some of your processes for collections here. Instead of you having to go into QuickBooks and remember if you have sent out an overdue notice to a client, or see what your open invoices are and select all of the overdue ones that you have and tell it to email forms at a QuickBooks desktop and hope that all of them go out. Recur360 allows you the option here to see all of my 20 open invoices. I can pick select all open invoices here. It puts a check mark next to every single person that I have in my Recur360 open invoices, and I choose to send them an email. I can send it as an overdue notice. It says, thanks for doing business with us. I can customize that. Please pay your invoice using the Pay Online link. And I can tell it to send immediately, or I can schedule this for later. So again, similar to when I set up my recurring invoice, I can set this to go every certain number of days after or before the due date, or every 4 days, starting one day after the due date of that invoice until it gets paid. So I press the schedule email button, and now everybody has an email that is set to go out based on this information happening. So if I go look at this particular invoice here from Recur360 and scroll down to the bottom of it, I'm going to see any emails that have gone out associated to this invoice or any pending emails that are going to go out in the future. So on 6/19, it was sent once immediately to the customer as an overdue email, and they opened it and clicked on a link inside of it. I had previously set up some pending emails to go out that got canceled, and I have a new one that's going to go out every 4 days until the invoice is paid. So that happens then automatically. I don't have to do anything in Recur360, and it will only stop if you cancel it over here or that customer fully pays that invoice. The invoice that the customer gets is going to be something that looks similar to this. So they get an email that shows them, it's kind of an Uber style type of an email that brands it with your own company information. So if I click here to download my pictures, I can define the color of the banner at the top here, put my logo on it, and then send this out. So it's going to show all the items that are on the invoice to that customer, what the balance due is, and then it's overdue. It gives them the invoice date, the QuickBooks invoice number, and our Recur360 invoice number. Then that customer has the option to click here to pay or view his open invoices. So if that customer clicks on the hyperlink that he sees, he comes to a web page that looks like this. He sees all of his open invoices with you. He has active invoices here. I have one that was $500 and he still owes $250 on it. He can also see any of his past invoices with you. So he sees all his invoice history, and he can resend those emails to himself if he needs another copy of that invoice. Okay. From the active tab on that customer site, he has the option to choose to pay that invoice or multiple invoices if he had more than one, and he can also make a partial payment on an invoice. So if he wants to go in and say that he only wants to pay $100 on it, he has the option to do that. Okay. He chooses, depending upon what I have enabled in Recur360 as options that he's going to enter here. He can do a credit card, a debit card, or an ACH record if he'd like to. So if he wants to put in ACH, he's going to put in his information here. I put in a phone number. And then his routing information. So he's going to get that from his check. I'm going to go ahead and enter a test one here. Make sure I get something that's not going to fail. And then his account number. Whether it's a checking or a savings account. And the last option that he sees is a checkbox that's already checked that says he would like to store this and allow these payment details to be used for any of his future transactions. So that gives you, as the Recur360 customer, the authorization to charge that for future payments and future recurring invoices. He does have the option to uncheck that, and then this would only be used for this particular one-time transaction that he has just entered. But by default, it is checked and left on. The customer checks that he is not a robot, to verify he's a human, submits that form, that payment gets processed, posted to QuickBooks, and saved on his customer record then. And it was successfully paid.
We have a question that just came in. Can you disable payment options like ACH?
Correct. In my Recur360 setup screen here, in my settings options, under email, I have the capability. Frequently, we have a lot of customers who are using QuickBooks Online, and you get free ACH transactions. So they only want to enable ACH on the Pay Online link. So here, I would simply take credit card processing, set it to none, and then anytime I send out that Pay Online link, that customer only has the ability to enter his banking information. He cannot process a credit card. However, you as the Recur360 person in the collection center would still be able to process a credit card and enter a credit card manually on a customer record if you chose to here.
Great, thanks. And then also, can you block the ability to pay a partial amount on an invoice? Like, can you make it so they can only pay the full amount?
Currently, they are able to pay partials or full amounts. I don't have the ability to disable the partial option. They cannot overpay the invoice, but they could pay either the full amount or anything less.
Okay, great. But then they would still get, you know, notices that it's not paid in full if they didn't pay it fully.
Correct. So those overdue emails would keep going out to them because this invoice is still not fully paid.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Now, while we kind of got into the settings options, which is something I kind of glossed over at the beginning, guys, is in our settings, our account options are where you have the ability to control your company name and whether an automatic email goes out to customers of credit cards about to expire, because that's also a very important option in our recurring invoicing world. What happens if I accidentally let that credit card expire and it invoices the next month and fails because I don't have the proper credit card information? If you have this option checked, then automatically prior to that expiring, the customer is going to get an email that looks like this that tells him that their card is about to expire and it's linked to a recurring invoice and they need to update their credit card information. Okay. So that's an option for you there. Also in our settings of the account, you can delete this one, but this, our Recur360 accounts, is where you would be able to connect your Recur360 to more than one QuickBooks file. As I mentioned here, I've got it connected to 2 right now. My Sandbox company has 6 recurring invoices that happen. My desktop company has 10 recurring invoices that happen. I can add a 3rd account here if I would like and connect that to another QuickBooks file. Options for you there. Also in our settings, I can control the email templates that go out. So in our emails, this is where I'm going to brand my email, pick my color, pick my logo, pick my messages that go out. So when an overdue notice gets sent, what does that say? When a customer gets an email that they paid their invoice, what does that say? And when an overdue notice goes out, that's what that one's going to say. Okay. So you have some full flexibility in here. Other options that you could do in here is I have customers who want to reference their own website in here. So you could put a hyperlink in here that takes them back to your website or refers them to another area where they could log in and do other kinds of things in that overdue notice if you would like to as well. What do they get on a payment failure? And then you can also see what a preview of our invoice PDF looks like. Currently, the attached PDF that goes out with our Recur360 invoices looks something like this. We do not allow for any customization of the design of this template yet, but it is a recurring, it is a feature that has been requested and something that is on our roadmap to do down the road. So you'd be able to change the design of this. But right now, it looks very similar to a QuickBooks invoice. It's got all of your bill to and ship to information, the invoice number out of QuickBooks, and then the detail of the description of the line items that were on that invoice, quantity, rate, amount, any taxes and discounts that apply are down here in the bottom right corner. So it's a preview of what that looks like for you.
Sorry,
yes.
I'm jumping in again. So the emails that
you're
showing as examples are in Outlook, because that's the platform.
Yes.
Use. Now, do you have to use Outlook in order for these emails to work properly, or if your company uses a different email platform, will that work?
Definitely, it can use a different email platform. Recur360 itself uses SendGrid as a backbone to send those emails. And what you're going to see in your Recur360 setup is when a customer hits the reply button, if they open an invoice here and happen to hit reply, what they're going to be able to reply to is whatever email address you've specified here.
Okay, great.
Okay. And also a feature is a lot of our customers enable a blind carbon copy of everything that Recur360 goes out, and they send this to their own company email address. It's useful for, let's say, then you have a copy of every invoice that has ever gone out of Recur360, and if you don't happen to be in your office, but you have access to your email, and a customer would like you to send them another copy of an invoice, you can simply go back to your email address, get a copy of it, and forward it on back to them. Okay. The last thing I want to cover in settings before I go to some of our report options, and we still haven't covered recurring payments, is our payment options and what payment platforms we can connect to. Recur360 does not add any additional fees to your credit card processing fees. We simply connect to whatever you have as a merchant account already using one of these 6 different platforms here. If you have Intuit Merchant Services, which is what mine is connected to, we can use that. We can use Stripe, Authorize.net, Elevon, USAE Pay. If we do have a client as well that does not have a merchant account yet, we also have our own Recur360 payments platform, which we can get you an application for and sign you up for. And we have some very competitive processing fees over here on the right-hand side that you can see. Currently, we're at 2.5% with a 25-cent transaction for credit cards and 45 cents per ACH. I can't beat QuickBooks' online free ACH processing, but I can do credit cards and ACH if you don't happen to have a merchant account already. Okay. And now that we have that, so you simply pick whichever processor you want to connect to it and go through some setup steps and connect those two together, and then you process everything on your payment side from Recur360 here. Okay. Then let's go into really quickly some reporting options in Recur360. I have an invoice history, which is going to show you every invoice that Recur360 has generated for you and the details on them. So I can see what the Recur360 invoice number was, how much it was for, and what the status of it is. In this one, I can see in my status, my card was expired and I failed to process this particular transaction. So in that case, I can click on Greta's customer record here. I can go edit her customer file real quickly, change her payment form. I can see this one expired in 2018 in June, but I have another one that does March 19th. So I can go back to that invoice here. If I go back to Greta, go back one page, show Greta, and pick up that invoice and say I want to process a payment and choose her other payment form. So I want to pick the MasterCard now, process it, boom, that's now gone off and paid. Okay. So those reporting options.
Sorry.
Sure.
Can we apply interest to invoices that are past due?
That's a very good question. Currently, we don't do past due fees or interest fees in Recur360. If an invoice was already generated and you need to add overdue fees or late fees, you would edit that invoice in QuickBooks, and then that information would sync back into that invoice here. As an example, let me show you if I go back into one of my customers here in my QuickBooks file. And I've got some overdue invoices here. I go pick up one of those. Greta is a good example here. She's got one that was due. If I edit that invoice here, and I add a late fee, I'm not processing a payment. So I would add a line item here for a late fee. And forgive me, this is my test database, so I don't know if I have a, we'll just add it as a service. We'll call it late fee. And we'll add it as $15. We'll save and send that. Oh, I don't have a, oh, might help if I just hit save because I don't have an email address for this guy. Come on. Okay, so now that has saved with that new late fee. If I want to communicate that change real time up to Recur360, that was Greta's invoice number 1042. If I go to Recur360 now and I go to my sync data option, that is going to real time pull information from QuickBooks directly back into my Recur360. Now that process, by the way, to update everything from QuickBooks happens overnight automatically as well. So this is that instance where I needed to add that late fee right away, and I want to email that back out to the client from Recur360. I put it into QuickBooks there. Now I did my sync data, and if I go find Greta, and I look at that invoice that was 1042, open that up here in Recur360. Oh, it didn't finish updating, huh? Did I save that? It didn't save in QuickBooks, that's why. That's why I got no change. Balance due 392, 398. So now if I go back and look at my overdue invoices, okay. And I think that now that change will be reflected. So I don't automatically process late fees and add them, but if you add them to your QuickBooks file, it will update the invoice into Recur360, and then you can resend that invoice to that customer with the new amount. So now if I go select Greta and I go look at that invoice, I see it with my service for my late fee, $15. And I can then go send that back out to her again with the new information on it. Okay. In Recur360, under the reporting options, one of the other nice ones that I really like and I think is very useful is our email history option, because it will show you every email that Recur360 has sent out and the status of them. So these particular invoice here for Red Rock Diner was delivered to the customer, but not necessarily opened by the customer. So I can see that it was delivered to his inbox on this date. I also see ones in here that this one was clicked on. So this customer, it was delivered on this date on 7/10. He opened it at 3:46 on the same day, and he clicked on a link in it in 3/16 of that date. So that means he clicked on the Pay Online link. So I can tell here the status of when I have a customer who says, I never got that email. I can go through here. I can see if it bounced. I have a report if it was dropped or bounced. Okay. I can see if he was delivered, if he opened it, and if he clicked on the link inside of there. Also, here is where you're going to see en masse any future pending emails that are set to go out from our collection center. So if I want to know, hey, what emails are supposed to be going out based on my invoices that are in collections, I can see these 3 invoices here right now are all pending. They go out, this one goes out every 4 days, this one goes out every 5 days, this one goes out every 3 days. So all of those I can cancel from here. If I don't want to send that to John, I can tell it to cancel that, and those will no longer process automatically and send emails out to him. So I can see that it got canceled. Okay. And the last option that I just want to show you guys today as well, the new feature for Recur360, is our recurring payments plan. This would be useful in an environment where if you have a customer who has a large invoice or a large overdue balance with you on multiple invoices, you could establish a payment plan for that particular customer and have Recur360 automatically process those payments for you. As an example, with my John Melton customer, if I wanted to say that I need to set up a payment plan with him, I know that I have already put his credit card information on his file in his customer record. So I can say I want to create a new recurring payment plan for him. I pick the customer, begin typing like I do in QuickBooks. It'll find the customer here. I can link it to any one of his open invoices, or I can simply have it process payments on my schedule until I tell it to stop. If I link it to an invoice, it will process until that invoice is paid in full. Okay, so this will be my payment plan as my description. I tell it how often this happens. I'm going to do this weekly, every 2 weeks on Wednesday, beginning on the 18th, and end it after 10 occurrences. I want to automatically charge his customer file, so I link that, and then I see which payment forms I have. So I'm going to charge his credit card ending in 5027. I want to send him an email that says his payment was processed, and then how much do I want to charge? So I'm going to do $200, and this is for his payment plan in the email message. That'll give him that notification. I press submit, and then Recur360 takes over and processes that on every 2 weeks, every Wednesday, until the 10 times that it happens. Okay? And again, that happens automatically based on overnight, 3 o'clock in the morning. Recur360 goes through every recurring invoice and every recurring payment plan to see what needs to be processed and if those need to be run. If, as I have here with John Melton, I have a payment plan that simply charges his card $200 that is not linked directly to an invoice, what happens is that is going to go over into QuickBooks to my customer record for John Melton as an unapplied payment to his account. So on his credit account, I will be able to see that there are unapplied payments to any invoices, and in QuickBooks, I would choose to link them to open invoices or leave them as a pending credit. Okay. So things that post over into QuickBooks, by the way, are going to post into your undeposited funds account for your payments and post as an invoice always. We do not post sales receipts into QuickBooks Online. We always function as an invoice. So that's how that information will come over into QuickBooks, online or desktop, both work the same. So that really, guys, is an overview of all of our Recur360 options for you as far as how it can help you with recurring invoices, recurring payment plans, or your collection center needs, and help automate those and push them automatically into QuickBooks for you. It is an entirely web-based platform, as I mentioned, so it can be accessed from anywhere. Currently, we have one user login per Recur360 account, but multiple people can be logged in from different locations at the same time. So if I have 5 people who need to be processing collection options for me, I can have them all log into Recur360 and function from the collection center. They would not necessarily need to have access to QuickBooks because they can see all open invoices and process payments, whether they're credit card, ACH, or manual payments, and that will post into QuickBooks automatically. So if I take another of my Jeff's Jalopies and I want to process a payment for him, I don't have to do that through QuickBooks. I can do process payment here. I can say that I want to do that as a manual check or cash credit card, pick check, put in my check number, and then process that payment here. So it might help to not have to have as many people in your QuickBooks file for you and know that it's secure and know that it will post over into QuickBooks for you automatically. Okay. We talked a lot today as well about how Recur360 works with QuickBooks Online. The functionality of QuickBooks Desktop, the only difference is we use a program called the QuickBooks Web Connector to talk to your QuickBooks Desktop file. So wherever your QuickBooks is running, one person would need to run your QuickBooks Desktop application and then run the Web Connector, and that is what is going to communicate data back and forth between your QuickBooks file and your Recur360 account. Okay. So that's our presentation on our Recur360 software, guys. Are there any other questions or things that you were wondering about that Recur360 software. You can see here in my desktop file that I have in my sync status, I have 18 pending things that are set to still go because I haven't run my web connector for my QuickBooks desktop program in quite a while. So all that queues up here and is pending until I go run the web connector program, and then that'll communicate back and forth between Recur360 and QuickBooks.
So Barb, one question that we have, if you have a customer who has prepaid several months and you set up to start billing after that prepaid amount has been used, can you post that monthly prepaid, or how could you account for that?
The invoice would create a recurring invoice from Recur360, and those invoices would post to QuickBooks. You would need to apply the credit that you already have in QuickBooks to the invoice there. And then Recur360, during the next time that it syncs to QuickBooks, would pick up that invoice was paid and show it as a paid invoice in his customer record here.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then can you go over, I know something that we're really excited about, when we compare to other competitors that can do similar things, not all encompassing as we do, a lot of other people that we've seen that have products similar or apps similar have a lot of tiered pricing with, a lot of a la carte things. But one thing that Recur360 offers is a really easy one price. You get everything. I know you touched on you can have as many users as you want, people logging in, but the one price for everything that you've seen here and more. As Barb said, we haven't even probably touched the iceberg on everything that this app can do.
Right, and Jennifer's right. In our billing settings here, what we do is we are a flat $59 per month for your Recur360 connection. Now that is per QuickBooks file that it is connected to. So I will let you know that in my environment here where I have 2 company files connected, that's 2 separate recurring billings of $59 each. However, that is, as she mentioned, a flat fee. I don't scale it based on how many customers you enter, how many invoices you process, what credit card processor you're using. I don't add a per transaction fee onto that or a percentage fee on top of that. So it is a flat $59 per month for unlimited people logging in and unlimited number of invoices that get sent.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, I don't have any other questions in the queue, but as we kind of wrap up, if anyone does have any other questions, please feel free to type those in and we'll get those answered for you. And we are going to try and do a demo on Recur360 maybe every 2 months, 3 months. The development team is doing such a great job on adding features. So as we do demos like this, and we'll ask questions about certain features that maybe aren't there yet, that's a great way for us to learn and grow and develop the app so that we can make it as all-encompassing as possible for everyone that's using. So look for more of these in the future, whether it's Barb. You did an excellent job today. Thank you so much. Or if we can get Andrew to do a couple of things. But we will be having more of these Recur360 presentations, just so you guys can see the things that are coming out, that are new, great features, updates, all of that. So we're really excited about these.
Yes. That new dynamic date feature is one of the newest things that just came on board that was a heavy requested item, especially for service-based typed industries where you want to tell people in the description of the invoice item when that service occurred or the frequency of when they're going to get billed. So that can be automated.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Barb. We really appreciate your time today. Like I said, you did a great job flowing through everything. I know there's a lot to cover, so you did great. I'm going to take back the screen here and show my screen. Sorry, go ahead.
While you're doing that, Jennifer, one other thing I did neglect to mention is with, yes, we do invoice $59 per month, but it is a free 30-day trial. If you are interested in Recur360, you can sign up and your first 30 days are free. Also, if you'd like more detailed kind of demo with you, you can contact us and let us know if you'd like for us to do a personalized demo with how your business would need to use Recur360.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to mention that too. If you did want more information
Great.
on this, if you want Barb to give you a deeper dive or just talk through some things, how it might work for your business, please do reach out to us. My email is on the screen, jennifer@ootbtechnology.com. And Barb's is just as simple, barb@ootbtechnology.com. We will reach out to you and get you the information that you need. So we really appreciate you all joining us today. And as I say that, we do have a really full schedule of upcoming Technology Tuesday webinars. As I mentioned at the beginning, not only do we feature third-party apps, but we have any news or something that's big in the industry, we really want to jump ahead of that. So in 2 weeks, we have some presenters from Avalara that will be going over some new details on a current Supreme Court ruling for online sales tax. So that's going to be really interesting, really impactful for a lot of different people. So if that's of interest to you, if that's up your wheelhouse, we'd love to have you join. And then in the following weeks, we have a couple different apps. We have Kindful, T-Sheets, Alpha 5, Veeam, and then Avalara is going to do their own presentation down in October. And in September, we have one of our own in-house experts, Chad Lampton, is going to do a presentation on some tips and tricks for Outlook users. He delivers a couple of these for our team here at Out of the Box Technology internally, and a lot of them are really good things that, I've been using Outlook for 15 years, and I was like, I didn't even know that. So be sure to check that out if you are an Outlook user, just some really good tips and shortcuts and those kinds of things. So again, thank you all so much for joining us. If you want some more information on any of these, if you want to register for any of those upcoming Technology Tuesdays, check us out, outoftheboxtechnology.com. Send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you all so much. Have a great day.